See, it would mess up now when everything, going the way it wants to. All right. What's going on, everyone? Beyond technical difficulties on my end, you would think during this podcast for 7+ years, I would know what I'm doing by now. But when you're bringing us fried, you're bringing us fried. Joining me on the show, as always, is the one and only Coach Sawatzky. Coach, how are you doing? First and foremost, thank you once again for taking the time out of your busy schedule for joining us for another monthly episode.
Well, I appreciate you wanting to talk to me. We're all really frustrated right now because not being in the playoffs is not something that we look at. Making the playoffs 2 out of the last 4 years and really 3 out of the last 5, because that first year we finished in 4th and we didn't play playoffs. It was just kind of awarded to Greenville. So, we're not where we wanted to be. There's a lot of reasons why, and we're looking to correct that for sure.
Yeah. Let me start off with this. Friday night, the news came out after the Charlotte AV Alta game. The team was eliminated, and obviously how things played out on Saturday. Looking ahead, where is the team, the mentality at heading into this final stretch with the last 2 games, one on the road, AV Alta, and at home, and hitting Derby?
Well, first, man, we went 4 games in a row scoring 2 goals. We didn't defend as well as we needed to, so we didn't get all the results we needed. But that the result against Knoxville was really what we're capable of. That's the top team in the league, and we won the series with them. We won the series with Omaha, so we were capable. We just weren't consistent enough. It was a real gut punch in the 92nd minute when Maru scored for Charlotte, because if that game stays tied, we're still in it. And I think that probably affected our group. Going into Texoma, we outshot them 15-13. We were better. I mean, we had guys in one-on-one. We had a penalty kick. We had all of these things, and it just didn't go for us. So, you asked the question about how are we going towards, AV Alta. We're going to go try to win the last 2 games of this season. Yeah. It's a long road trip. We haven't been out there before. We're going to go try to get a result for everybody. And the guys, the train today was really good. I was pleasantly surprised, because that was a very hard road trip. So. The guys are ready. We're gonna compete for these last 2 games.
Yeah, as you mentioned, the season has had its shares of ups and downs. For you, what's been the biggest lesson for you that you learned about this squad so far, and how do you take that lesson going forward?
Man, I can talk about this a lot, but I'll say this: in the history of our league, there's been 25 teams. Some have come and gone, but only 6 teams have won a trophy, and really only 4 teams are left out of that group that have won. NCFC left, and obviously North Texas went to MLS Next Pro. It's really hard to win things, and that's what Richmond demands. That's what the fans want. That's what people want. They want winners. So, we've spent the last few years really working hard to get the local kids involved in it. And the good part is you have guys like Beckett Howe and Griffin Garnett, James Sned, and Landon Johnson. They're really starting to peak. They're starting to get over that edge. I think you're going to see a whole different set of guys in that group in the coming year and years. I would say, though, that we're not winning enough, and we're all frustrated by that. So we know some things that we need to do, and that is definitely the focus going forward.
So looking at the last few matches that we played, like you mentioned, this team has been able to score multiple goals. I was excluding the Texoma game that's happened there, but the team has been able to score. Defensively, that's kind of been where this team has been up and down at. What stood out to you in those defensive performances, especially when we see it in the partnership between Beckett Howe, moving him to center back, and with Marcelo Large pairing with him?
Look, let's if I have my statistics right, we've scored 38 goals. That's good for 5th in the league. We've had 50 goals scored on us. That puts us second last. And we haven't defended well enough. And, I've tried a lot of different things. We've tried a lot of different things. We went to a 3 and 5 back system. We got a couple of results, and then that waned. We just haven't been consistently good enough on the defensive side of things. I think Beckett and Marcelo have been every bit as good a matchup as we've had this year, and we've played a lot of people in there. So people have to remember that defending isn't just about defenders and goalkeepers. It's about the whole team. And, we were able to put it together against Knoxville, but then we turn around and we don't get it done at Texoma. So it's it's certainly frustrating, and we got to correct it.
I want to ask you this question: how frustrating is it for you as a coach to have those my fault, inconsistencies in defense from throughout the whole unit? How frustrating is that to have?
There's a lot of reasons, people will be like excuses or excuses, and I'm not going to give any. I'm just going to say I select the players, I train the players.
Mhm.
We've done it. We've won a championship. We've been nominated as coaches of the year a couple of times. We've won it once. We've had good years where things have kind of gone our way. I would argue this year. I mean, I can't remember a time in my life where you've missed 4 penalty kicks in a season. And if you go back and you look at those 4 penalties, all 4 of those penalties equate to points. If you add points to those penalty kicks, and nobody tries to miss penalties, it's just
Yeah,
it's that year. It's the year where things aren't falling for us, and if fans are frustrated, you have no idea what it's like for a coach. When I
yeah,
played, I could run out there and kick somebody. I could demand excellence. I could do things, but as a coach, all you can do is train well. And I would tell you that our guys have trained incredibly well this year. It's just for whatever reason we have not been consistent game to game.
yeah. I was listening to the broadcast and they were mentioning that about how Texoma goalkeeper set the record for most PKs saved in a year, but Richmond at the same time with the miss set the record for most miss. And it's just like those moments where you could go back and be like, those are the sliding doors moments, or like you were mentioning about how those are just attached to points and how easily those can change games.
Look, Emi Terzaghi is the most prolific goal scorer in the history of USL League One.
Yeah,
He's doubled the score of anybody else. They're celebrating all these players. I mean, the guy scored goals right and left. You don't expect that, and he doesn't want to miss. Darwin Espinal's been a Golden Boot winner in leagues. You don't expect that. I mean, Chandler O'Dwyer has been amazing, and for whatever reason, that goalkeeper made a save on him. I trust all of those guys to take penalties. I'd have them take penalties tomorrow. It's
yeah,
just for whatever reason those things have not gone in.
yeah. Um, so I mean, outside of defensive, we've talked about it so many times on here. Injuries have played a big role this season. How have you managed the squad rotation and getting the most out of the players that have been available and playing players in different positions?
I would start with the kids first, and after this year, once this year is over, I'm not going to refer to them as that anymore because they're young pros.
Yeah,
But we are the only club that's doing that. We're the only club that's playing multiple teenagers and academy guys in every game. Yeah, there's a one-off guy here, 10 minutes there. Some teams do a better job than others, but we're full on. We give them a platform and they play. They're starting to graduate into being the pros that they need to be. So there's the first part. The second part is just based on how we're able to build teams. When you have a guy like Darwin Espinal or Nils Seufert and they miss a couple of months of the season, or Terzaghi or Maxi Schenfeld, these are starting players in our league, and replacing them isn't easy to do. And it cost us. Like, those injuries cost us. Dakota Barnathan being out the last month has been really costly for us. So, we have to do a better job of the makeup of the roster. And that's something that we're working on as a club. We've been having a lot of meetings, a lot of time to really talk about how do we compete with the teams that are able to do like for like subbing and all that stuff. And there's a plan in place.
yeah. Talking about the attack as a whole, another part of you mentioned, because you mentioned like players like Darwin Espinal, Aiden Bellhart, Emiliano Tresago has missed at some point significant time. We see them on the field when they're all together. It looks wonderful, and I'm pretty sure there's a part of you inside of that grizzly whole period that smiles just like, man, if I had them for a full 30-game season, what could have been?
Well, look, dude, when you build a team, if you look at our team on paper, we're pretty darn good, based on history and all that stuff. I don't think we've ever had them all out there at the same time, and that's something you deal with. That's not an excuse. That's why you have other players on the team. We had 7 wins so far. One or two situations like the tie against Greenville, the ties against Westchester. If they go our way, or if a penalty kick's called for us here or there, all of a sudden you're on 8, 9 wins with 2 to go, and you're right where you need to be. I mean, the margin of error is so tight.
Yeah,
So, again, you got to make sure guys stay on the field. We're going to do everything we can with it, with our preseason and all that stuff to make sure that they can. But sometimes you just deal with injuries.
yeah. One thing that we talked about the podcast, and if you could disclose, that'd be great, is Bill Hart. For so long we got so accustomed to seeing him on the right wing. You moved him slightly more inside and kind of being on the same side with Darwin Espinal. Um, what do you see from him in that position, in that center mid position, that he offers the team there versus being out wide?
First thing I would say to you is Adrian's played 900 minutes for us this year just based on the struggles with injuries. That equates to little less than a third of the season. And a lot of those minutes are, 15 minutes here, 20 minutes there because he just couldn't get out there. To see him get to play significant minutes, I think he's played 60 in the last two, has been a lot of fun because he's just a really smart player. He's got good soccer acumen and he's feisty. I think the Knoxville game with him and Darwin and those guys, I think you really saw what we were capable of this year, and we were never able to really roll it out. So it's all part of it. You have to adjust and you learn and plan for the future. But he's a special player. It's just he's really struggled with injuries the last 2 years.
Looking back at specific individuals throughout your team, regardless of position, who's really grown the most over the course of this season, despite all the ups and downs?
Yeah, Beckett Howell's been great. I mean, I can play him in multiple spots. He gets the job done. Landon Johnson finally decided to be the player that we know he can be. I mean, the last couple of months he's been excellent. I think James Snedden had a little bit of a dip at one point, but to be honest with you, his growth has been slow and steady. Um, Josh Kirkland, another kid. It's funny. Josh never played for Richmond United. They never picked him. He only played for the Richmond Strikers, so he was never on that side of it. Gave him a little chip. He went to a third division school, and he's pushing 10 goals for a season. And anybody that can do that is a legit pro. And he put the time in. The last guy that I would say he's just an unsung dude is Simon Fitch. Simon is always on the field. He only misses if I don't let him. He takes care of his body like nobody else. He shows up every day. He and Mika do film almost every single day. I mean, he's such a guy trying to improve every day. He's a real model for what pros should be. But he's a real unsung hero, Simon.
Yeah, we have a joke on the podcast. We call Simon a young vet because he's so young, but he's also been around for so long and he's married and everything like that. Recently, he just broke 100 caps as well for the club here in Richmond, all of the year watch. Just speak to how proud are you of him and his accomplishments. And you saw the maturation of him from being a young man out of VCU to now being married and being a club captain and so forth.
I'll start with saying that we kind of do that. I think Chandler O'Dwyer came and had some spotty minutes in the beginning, has really turned into a starter here, and he's earned it. He's done the work. Simon, we've done it. I could name off a bunch of names, but Simon, when he came here, he was behind Stuart Ritchie and Stephen Payne on the outside back spots, and he earned his way in playing left back. And then ultimately took over the starting spot at right back and has never looked back. He was an all-star in 24, definitely deserved. And he hasn't missed much. I think it's been really unfortunate that defensively we've struggled this year because I don't think that's really indicative of Simon.
Yeah, no, I mean it's always an awkward moment when I see Simon getting subbed out because it rarely happens. It rarely happens. He's always, one of the few players that I know, regardless of what's happening, he's going to be in that starting 11. And like you said, like if we can get more players like Simon in, this club is definitely going in the right direction. Even though this team has faced so much adversity over the year, from injuries to defensive inconsistencies to the ups and downs of the mid part during the summer, what has been your message to the players during these tough stretches? Because, and I think the reason why me and you connect so well is because of the kind of like the teacher piece when it comes to coaching. So, what has been your message to the players throughout all these struggles?
Look, there's successes and there's learning moments. I know failing. If you look across the board, if you measure failing by not winning enough games and not making playoffs, then that's fine. But I've learned an absolute ton this year. And out of adversity comes one of two things: either more manhood or no manhood. And I think that all of the guys have benefited from that. And hopefully it translates into success for them, whether they're here or not, because that's what it's really all about. We use every game and every failure or every non-success as an opportunity to be a teaching moment. I know not everybody loves to hear that. And it's not an excuse. I mean, we all want to win every game. And if anybody thinks we're not trying to win, we are absolutely trying to win every game. The Texoma game, I watched back over it. I have no idea how we lost the game. I honestly cannot. Like, I look at it, I'm like, holy moly. We had 3 one-on-ones. We had clear headers in front of the box. Penalty kick. We had all these different things. How we lost that game was really difficult and frustrating. But we're right there, man. This team was right there. We just didn't get it done consistently.
Yeah, and I mean, you have veteran players in your team from Emmy to Pablo Hara to Simon Finch. The list could go on and on. How important is it to have those veterans in a season like this, where it's very easily a locker room could become splintered and fractured, and they're pulling apart, and they're being individuals. And one thing I will say, despite all of that, this team has still fought hard. Yeah, I haven't seen a game yet where you know I question their effort. I might question some things, but I don't question their effort. How important is it to have veterans in your team like that to keep a locker room together during these tough moments?
Yeah, first thing I would say, there's obviously people that get upset. They don't play, or we lose a game, or, things are happening within their life. I think that there's guys in the locker room that have done a good job of helping keep that, keep the group and keep the culture right. Look, when you're not winning games, nobody's happy. And there's a lot of noise out there. A lot of people have a lot to say. Everybody's got an opinion. And these kids live on social media and online. I mean, that's just the life of things now. And everybody has an opinion out there. So, some people take it to heart. Some people can move on. I think our guys have done a good job of managing that this year, probably better than even a year ago. I think they've done a good job of that because we've had a lot of low moments. And I will tell you today, we walked into training, and that trip back from Texoma was painful, man. You stay out at this little old 1960s resort out in the middle of nowhere, and you drive into Sherman and play this game in Texas. And then you got to get up at 3 a.m. to drive down to Dallas to fly home. And these guys were crushed by the whole thing. We found out that we didn't have a chance to make playoffs while we were there. And then we had to play a game, and what happened. And I would tell you, the way the guys walked into the locker room, I was really proud to be associated with them today. They trained their tails off. They trained really well. We were really impressed by it. We know tomorrow will be the same. So, it bodes to the character of the guys.
Yeah. And also, Darren, to your credit, you've talked a lot about the difficulties you've had of wearing three hats of development and then also identifying the talent and coaching the talent and all that stuff. For you right now, it might be hard for you to say, but if you could give us a outlook, how close is this team to playing your version of soccer?
Phew. The first part of it I'll answer, and then I'll answer differently on the end.
Yeah.
We've been working very hard at player development, and we're not going to stop doing that. But we're
Mhm.
finally at a point where I think we can hold that group of players more accountable to help us win. Because the reality is, veteran guys let us down as much as young guys did in things that had happened this year. So we're very, very close to having a core group of guys in this town who love the Kickers, grew up here, want to be a part of it, and want to develop and make this thing a bigger project down the road. So you're going to hear less of me talking about that. These guys are there. There'll be young guys around, but those young guys now are growing into young pros. Now, being able to play the way that I want to play, I would tell you that from day one here, I've adjusted the way I want to play from the very, very beginning, and it still continues because in League One, it's very difficult. If you lose one special player, it changes your team. I mean, Darwin Espinal was tearing up the league in the first half of the season, and when he went down, it changes the way we play. Nils Seufert's the same. If you don't have a healthy Emi Terzaghi, or he doesn't happen to be in form, we certainly could have used the 2022 Terzaghi on the field this year. But these are the things, and if that happens, then you have to make adjustments. Do you press? Do you drop off? Do you do things? For me, I told you from day one, I want to own the ball. I want to go get the ball, and I want to punish with the ball. And I don't mean that negatively, but sometimes we can't do that. Sometimes we have to be a little bit more subtle, or we have to adjust formationally or style of play to try to stay in games.
Yeah. Always interested in how do you find that balance of when do you know when to pull that string of like, all right, I want to go do this, but I can't go do this, and I have to go adjust it. Is it ever like the two? Do you ever find yourself fighting that conflicting battle of I know how I want to play, but I have to sacrifice it for how what best suits them in this moment?
2022 with just past the midpoint, we took the reins off and we let them go, and you saw what happened. Okay,
Yeah,
we had a lot of ties towards the end of it, but we were flying. And even in the semifinal that we lost, we completely dominated that game. We just didn't finish. Since then, 23, we just had the injury. I mean, I started Justin Suko and Chandler O'Dwyer as center backs at Knoxville the last game of the year. That'll tell you how that year went.
yeah,
Both great guys, but they're not center backs, right? And we also had 4 teenagers on the field in that game. So we've always been adjusting. 24 was definitely adjustment. We had to adjust over and over and over. And this year with the injuries and what happened with that, I mean, how many? I think I played 5 different formations this year. And with each formation, they're different ways of playing. And we had to adjust based on opponents and based on what we had available. So I commend the guys. They took on a lot of information and they applied it really well. I mean, we played well in each of those formations at times. It's just, again, because of the way it played out, we weren't able to get consistently going. So we were chasing our tail for most of it.
Yeah. I want to ask you this also as a coach, because you've been very transparent with it, but how do you balance the pressure of winning with also developing a long-term culture?
Interesting. Culture is a non-starter for me. I believe that in the end, no matter how many trophies you have, and I have a lot, man, I've won a lot of things. I'm really a lucky person, but I worked really hard at it.
Yeah.
You're without the culture and personal relationships, none of it matters. When you're done playing and you look back on it 10 years, you don't remember the trophy. You remember the guys you did it with, and they were your friends. So the culture is a non-starter for me. That part matters. So that has to be there. Look, and we're not foolish. We know if fans demand winning. That's what this is, and we're in that pressure cooker, and we want that pressure. So, uh, I think going forward, our emphasis on making sure we get the points we need is going to be a little bit more out front. But the culture part can't not be there, because if you win games and nobody cares about each other, and if you win games and people don't have each other's backs, then that trophy is hollow. And as soon as you win it, it's done, and it's really rare. It's so thinking back in my brain, I can't think of any one of the championships I've won where the people didn't care about each other. You have to work together to get things done.
Yeah. So, as you mentioned, with the remaining games ahead, this Friday, AV Alta out in California, and then you guys come back here for our Henny Derby the following week. Outside of results, what what are the goals that you put in front of these group to finish out strong these games?
Defensive consistency. That's number one. Like we have not got it done defensively. I mean, everybody can see that. It's obvious. The statistics, the data all tell us this. We need to finish the 2 games at the level that we can, like we did against Knoxville. So we have to do that. We know we can score goals. I mean, we went 4 games in a row scoring 2 goals. We're 5th in the league in scoring. I mean, we probably could have scored more, but I think we'll score goals at Alta. We just got to make sure we stop them from doing it.
And also we see young players such as Andrew Richmond, grab the Kyle got minutes out of Texoma. Can fans see any more young players like that, those academy players making surprise debuts during these last 2 games, or being contributes to the 18-man roster?
We select the 18-man roster based on training and who we believe is going to help us win a match. Grafton Call's been training incredibly well. He deserved the minutes he got, and I think he showed really well in the game. So, we're gonna go to Alta to win the game. If that means that we're playing all veterans, then we're gonna play all veterans. So
Yeah.
I don't even know that for sure yet, and we leave on Thursday. Tomorrow we'll make the final decisions.
It was always a good question to throw out there. Just, seeing the young guys out there. Just wanted to see if I can get anything out of that.
Look, our
But
U- our
I
U
mean,
our U20 team is heading to nationals in
yeah,
December, and that program's been amazing. Connor's done a great job. Mika's done a great job. Their opportunity as young players, if that's how you want to term it, is to go, try to win a national championship at the U20 level in December. As it relates to the first team, we're developing them for the first team, but we want to win the games. So if they're going to help us win the games, they're going to play. But there's no charity minutes on a first team.
yeah. And look, we haven't had a chance to talk about the U20s as much as we did last year. I would love to get Connor on here to pick his brain about it. But that unit, especially under your leadership of how you guys have fostered that and developed that, especially with Coach Mika as well, has been so special. They came so close last year to winning it. So hopefully they can get it over the line this year. With the last 2 games, wrap it up. I've always asked you this, but hopefully now we're getting closer. I can get a good answer out of you. Um, with the off season, what does the off season look like for you this year? And what areas are you looking to address? Because so many this comes from trash and work. Player contracts are up and things like that, and we know how roster movement works in USL League One. Guys don't stay on like those 3 to 5 year contracts. You might come accustomed to in Europe. How does roster movement look, and where are you looking to address that?
Well, there's going to be change here. There's no question. We didn't win enough. That's number one. Number two, um, you're there's 7 new teams in our league, and in the past, guys have left us for bigger paychecks and different opportunities and stuff. So in the next few weeks, we'll start to address that and work through all of that. But we know what we need to do. We got to get better defensively. There's no question. We also have to have the ability to change things and be able to morph in different ways. You're like I said, we have to make sure that if key players go down, we have other ways to play. And when you build the roster, you have to keep that in mind because you have to anticipate things that you couldn't anticipate. Losing top players is very, very difficult. So there will definitely be change. And again, like I told you, our emphasis will be on more points in 2026. We're definitely going to develop players, but in the end, we want to do both with a more emphasis on the side of getting back into the playoffs.
Yeah, and one of those changes have already been announced. Coach Miguel Lavora is making the move over to Sarah. I always mess with it. Is it Sarasota or
Yeah,
Sarasota?
Sarasota.
Sarasota. Okay, Sarasota. It sounds like something that's up north, but it's in Florida. He's making a move to be the head coach there. We know how close you guys are and the connection y'all have. One, how can you speak to how big of a miss he's going to be to this organization, and then two, um, what? How do you think it will go for him his first year as the leading man for our new USL League One club?
Well, one, we pride ourselves in developing people, whether that's on the soccer field or coaching or front office, whatever it is. We pride ourselves in that. Mika's been ready to be a head coach in this league for a long time. He left for Columbus Crew in 2023, and we were able to bring him back because it was an incredible project that we were going to do here. That project has morphed, into basically concentration on an under 20 group, just based on the kind of support or lack of it that we get here in the community. So he was ready for this for a long time, man. And we knew that he would come knocking. We've known for a little while that that's just what was going to happen. And so now I just get to talk trash to him rather than with him. I'm really happy for him, except when he comes to City Stadium. You know what I mean? His family, they work the games. They've been involved in the community and the soccer level and so many other levels for so long that it's going to be a real miss. I don't think people really understand how important Mika is. Just a brain. He's got a PhD. He's been in player development for a long time. It's obviously going to hurt us on the IDP side. He does a lot of individual development programs with players, guys like Simon, Johnny Bolaños, and these guys really, really developed under Mika. But it's his opportunity to go sit in the big seat and go win some games and deal with all the love that these fans send to us. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I can only imagine that text message you're going to send him after he gets his first victory as a head coach. I'm pretty sure you're already got it drafted up and ready to go.
Well, listen, it's bittersweet. I wish him the very best. But we all know there's some change that needs to happen with the Richmond Kickers, and there'll be some significant change, and we need to do that because we need to refresh our team. We need to make sure that this team is competitive going forward, and not having Mika is a loss, but it also means that we're going to be able to bring in somebody new with ideas to help our club.
Yeah, and I want to ask you one last question before we get up out of here because we talked about it. New clubs are coming in. I think what is it? Port City, St. Lucia, or another company in Florida is coming. And so many so many new teams are coming. And you were talking about how roster move is going to go. With the new teams coming in, does the talent pool dilute itself, or does it expand to become even richer with new cities coming in and you guys finding new recruiting hotbeds and things like that?
Well, this was my whole point 3 years ago about having an academy and developing players. I mean, what we really have here is a youth soccer club who does their own thing, and then we try to take talented players into the 20s and help them develop to be pros. It's I don't begrudge anybody. Everybody's got their way of doing things and what they need to do, but in the end, now we're at that point where if you have a fully functioning youth system where 5-year-olds are following a methodology that the pros are, and they come all the way up, then you're just graduating guys in every year. We haven't been able to accomplish that here, just because of different factors. But now that hasn't happened, we got to be really creative on where I do find players, whether they're from Richmond or elsewhere, because the talent pool absolutely gets diluted. You have more teams. There's more players are going to go elsewhere. So you better have a good network to recruit, and you better be doing a good job of developing, because this is a lot of teams.
Yeah. Obviously, it's going to be interesting to see what the we're going to have a 21 team league next year. Wow. Makes my head spin. It's going to be a lot to cover next year. But, I mean, you'll be leading the Kickers next year. Before we get up out of here, this is our final whistle, Coach. Once again, these have been great to do. Be able to pick your brain, hear from you directly, and just hear the message of what the club is doing behind the scenes and how things are developing, progressing. So, what is your final message to the team? Definitely with fan appreciation night happening at the Hitty Derby, last game of the season.
So I'll say from the top, from Rob and Camp on the business side, our club is working their absolute tails off. Everybody is trying to give the product that everybody wants, and we're going to get there. I have no doubt in my mind. We have our challenges, but you know what? We're headed in the right direction. I'm absolutely grateful to have the opportunity to coach. And if Rob decides at some point that isn't what needs to happen, I respect that. But I'm going to tell you, I'm going to work 24 hours a day on this until that day does come. And right now, we're excited about the direction that this club is going. The things that Camp's doing on the business side and that whole front office and everything. We know where we can get to. We appreciate people's patience, and we do also appreciate their criticism, because you have to get better, and we're going to get better, and we're going to work to do that. So we appreciate it. We hope everybody keeps supporting the Kickers.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Coach. As always, listeners, we want to say thank you for taking the time of your day for listening to our show. If you want to support the show, you can do so at rivercity93.com/donate. You can find all the episodes of the Final Whistle there, and also River City 93 and podcast episodes as well. For Coach Sawatzky and myself, we will holler at you guys next week. Be easy and be